everybody. Yes, indeed. It is Wednesday. So grab your goat, grab a really big drink of whatever is your choosing, because it is time for the Witches Movie Coven. Indeed, witches, five of us talking about witchy and witches in movies. Yes, and you guys join in because we have a chat room right here. We want your opinions, your thoughts, your lights on, lights off, wands up, wands down. What? My name is Patti Negri. I am one of your hosts. You might know me from The Witching Hour or from Ghost Adventures or from YouTube, but I am here with my goat. And let my cohorts introduce themselves. Jason.
I'm Jason Mankey. I've written 9 books about witchcraft over the years, and I'm a huge lover of Macedonian film, so this movie was right up my alley tonight.
Heather.
Wait a minute, I gotta take a moment after that. Something I didn't know about you, Jason.
Yeah.
I am Heather Greene, and I'm an editor of witchy books. I'm also a author myself of Lights, Camera, Witchcraft, which I always forget to have out and available, but here it is, the definitive guide to witchcraft and witches in Hollywood film and television. I'm also a journalist covering religion and the occult. And I actually studied Eastern European film in film school. However, I had never seen this one until today.
Thank you. Richard-Lael.
I am Richard-Lael. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a... Anyway, with that, that is right. Richard-Lael is a one name. I am known as the Gentleman Psychic. I'm a psychic and a medium. I used to be a psychic and a small, but I gained so much weight. What else can I say? You can see me on all kinds of things, Ghost Adventures on the occasion, and I teach at University Magicus, and I decorate things. I also paint. I do stuff.
Beautiful stuff indeed. And Courtney.
That's me. I'm Courtney Buckley, ghost bait on Scared and Alone, Salem Witch, and I don't know if excited is the right. Oh, hey, that's me. I'm gonna be. I have a location. I have a thing to share with you guys later. I'm not. I don't know if I'm excited to talk about this movie tonight. I have a lot of thoughts.
Speaking of this movie, thank you very much. This movie is called You'll Never Be Alone. You Won't Be Alone. You Won't Be Alone. Yes, it is. But I want to be alone personally, but not saying anything. Heather, it is probably not. No, I don't want to talk to Heather at all yet. Richard-Lael, do you have an unbiased synopsis of this lovely film?
I do. So, You Are Not Alone has Michael Jackson half naked in a bunch of poses. Oh, that's right. You're Not Alone is not the right one. Oh, You're Not Alone is a 2022 horror film, which is horrible to watch. It's a family drama, horrible film. Oh, right. You Won't Be Alone is the film after watching that horrible, awful other film and music video. Okay, so You Won't Be Alone. It is a story about a Macedonian spirit. It takes place in the 19th century, not in Arizona. It does not take place in Arizona in the 21st century. It, in fact, takes place in Macedonia in the 19th century. And You Won't Be Alone has an ancient witch who has kidnapped a child and used her witch spit to turn this young girl, into a witch herself. And so the witch goes through and she sort of experiences life. She has been sheltered for 16 years as her mother was trying to prevent her from being taken by the witch. And so she ends up by going into a village, and she changes bodies, and she tries to figure out what it is like to be human. And then in the end of the film, it has that the woman has come back and is amazed. The witch is amazed. Well, why aren't you more like me? Why aren't you like me? And she's tried to kill her. Oh, she's killed the woman's husband, who now was fine with her being a witch, and has come after the baby. But she says, "Don't kill my baby." And she turns the baby into a witch, and then I don't remember. I think I fell asleep. That was about it.
Now that we have
She
a clear
kills the old witch.
That's
Thank
about
you.
it.
That's it.
Macedonia, 19th century,
Macedonia.
tries to find out what it is like to be human.
And the finest of humanity, I might add. All right, Heather, back to you. Again, I am sure it is not in your beautiful book because you haven't written your European version yet or your otherworldly.
Yes.
Right. No, I haven't. Yeah. It's just that this was after my book was published, and also it's European. So there's a lot of interesting things about this that I'll talk about because it is an extremely powerful film. It ended up the director. This was his debut. It was in Sundance. It got lots of acclaim. It hasn't done as well commercially, but it is. Not surprising because it is considered an art house film. It's much more of cinematic art than it is what a standard fare that we might see in our theaters. It's not a classic horror film, similar to The Witch. Really got bad reviews by a lot of people because it's not a classic horror film. This is not. This is also a European film. So when we as Americans watch European films or any films from any other part of the world, we need to realize that they speak a different language, not only the actual verbal language, but the actual cinematic language is different. So they go at a different pace. They have different points. But this actually captures a theme that was very trending, that's been trending in the last 10 years with witch films, is the oppressed woman story of becoming a witch. This has been a trend in witch films in the US and the UK, and obviously Macedonia as well, which has been like I said, it's been trending. You have Chilling Adventures of Sabrina. You have what's it called? Motherland Salem, Fort Salem, Motherland. Yeah, those TV shows. You have She Will. That was a Scottish film we watched as well. So you have this trend of the oppressed woman fighting against the patriarchy in a lot of these films, and that's why she becomes a witch. Think of Maleficent, another one. So they cross genres and they're crossing this theme. So it fits into the trends of this time in witch films. Like I said, the guy is actually I found a fascinating, amazing article where he says some really great things about the themes, because this is the type of art house film where you have the surface story, which Richard-Lael just spoke about, and in the ending, after you fell asleep, Richard-Lael, she kills the old witch because she made the younger baby a witch, and there could only be two. There could only be the mother-daughter dynamic. So she's able to kill the older one because now the baby is the witch. Did you see the little black nails?
I have to admit, I couldn't watch it in one sitting, and I tried, and then I came in to watch it, and I didn't want to have to buy it again, so I cheated, and I looked at some of the reviews online. So
you didn't see the baby nails. The little baby nails at the end. So that's how it ends. She's because there can only be two of them. So this also is important to know. One last thing just before we start talking about it, and I will share my thoughts and other deeper themes and stuff later, is that this the story, this gives us an opportunity to talk about folk magic, because this story of this old maid Maria is a Macedonian legend, folklore. It's not just from this film. It actually is resonating in the folklore of that area, and also is similar to other folkloric witches of the woods like the Baba Yaga. So there is a trend in folkloric magic, and witchcraft are thought of in different ways in Eastern Europe than we have here in the US. And there's a big folkloric trend in those parts, which, really, people are trying to connect back with. So we can also talk about that a little bit later. But it's fascinating. As you can see, I'm totally fascinated with this movie, just as a precursor to my review later.
One other thing about this film, though it's in Macedonian, that's the language that's used throughout the film. It's a very worldly film in that there were Americans involved in the production. The director actually immigrated to Australia when he was 4 years old. So now he's basically Australian. And they entered this movie in the Oscars as an Australian film for Best foreign language picture. So, and it also had a UK production and then actresses from all over Europe. One specifically from Sweden who was in I can't remember her name, but she was in all of the original Girl with the Dragon Tattoo movies. And she's been in some other things since then. So it's very worldly. It's not just about Macedonia, although that's where the folktale comes from. There's a lot of different groups working on this film, which to me made it more interesting that everybody saw this story as something that should be told. It's not just this little isolated group saying we want to hear this story.
No, and he writes and he says that he was actually, when he was researching, he wanted to make something from his heritage, something from his origins, from the Macedonian region, from that area. But he couldn't find anything that was, the folklore was so, he said, I have to read his words. He said that they treated women so poorly in all of the folklore. I'm trying to find where he says it. Female characters were usually sidelined. Instead, he found inspiration from studying witchcraft. And he's speaking specifically of folkloric witchcraft from the area and how legends allowed for women to transgress. And that was what inspired him, is to start with that witch and that folkloric witchcraft. And he specifically is, he is gay. And so he really was, and he lived, what did he say, in UK? I think he said he lived in the UK, and he lived, he was often oppressed. He was often felt like the outsider. So he was really attached to this kind of concept. And kind of, even though he said it wasn't about him, there is something about that there as well. So he connected to that story in the folklore. So it's very interesting. There's a lot of interesting stuff to this that go deeper than the service story, for sure.
I mean, it's almost as deep as The Killing Tree. I mean, almost.
How dare you? How dare you?
We said almost, Courtney.
Okay, thank you. As long as we recognize what the superior film is.
Okay. Now, who wants to go first on this? Courtney.
Okay, I'll go. So I was very excited to watch this movie. Because looking at like the previews or looking it up online, it looked really interesting, and it was a beautiful film to watch. The scenery was amazing, the sounds were amazing. I liked hearing the language. I don't mind subtitles. I liked that a lot. My problem with it was, and it's not even really a problem because I'm undecided whether or not I liked it, but it was hard to follow at first. I feel like I didn't get it until very close to the end. Then everything made sense, but like I struggled the whole way to follow what was happening with the story. And I don't know if it's just the raging ADHD or whatever, but like I was watching it, I was paying attention. But I didn't mind the gore. I thought it was great. Like I thought it was very it was peaceful in a way, which was weird. Like it was just, it gave me a lot of feelings that I don't normally associate with movies like this. Like her, like when they would like rip apart things and like rip their chest open and like stuff the stuff inside, it was like sad almost, like which is odd. So I feel like, even though I think I said this out loud, like while I was watching the film, I didn't get it, but I was feeling a lot of things, which to me marks a good movie. So whether or not I liked it, I think it was an excellent movie. I'm still undecided though if I liked it, but I thought like it was sad. I'm filled with ennui. I'm depressed now that the movie's over. I'm gonna have to watch something, probably The Killing Tree, later to get over it. So I don't know. I'm undecided. I don't know which way my wand is going tonight, because I want to hear what you guys have to say too, and maybe that'll help shape my thoughts on it. But I literally finished watching it and then came and sat down in this chair and came on here, so it's like fresh in my mind. So I'm still processing.
Thank you. Anybody want to go second?
I'll go. I'll go. Here's my thought. All of the things that Courtney said, 100%. It is beautiful. It is visually appealing. The language is beautiful. The acting is brilliant. They needed someone who was not human, who didn't have human interaction. So the actress, all of the actors in all of her different forms, male and female alike, They all had to act as if everything that they were seeing, everything that they were doing, everything that they were touching was the first time they'd ever done it, and do so and not look stupid. That was the thing. Like, she was incredibly intelligent, but she just didn't have human interaction. She didn't know. So I thought that was incredibly beautiful. As the consummate outsider myself, I also understood. I was just telling someone today that when in my younger days, one of my first jobs, I worked at a Greek restaurant of all places. I lived in Greece a little bit later on, and one of the hostess or one of the servers came to me and she says, "Oh, can't you just do something? All you do is stand around and stare at people." And I went, "I do." And honestly, it was because I had not been in that environment. I was trying to figure out people and figure out what made them tick and what made them human. So on that, they absolutely nailed it. It was beautifully filmed. There were a few shots that when she was sort of when she was first out of the cave and the camera is spinning around, I got a little nauseous. But it was slow. It was slower paced than what one would be slow, what one would expect. But visually, it was beautiful. I could understand the story. I just felt like it was. I tried to watch it 3 times, and I didn't want to have to pay for it again. Otherwise, I would have finished it. But it's beautiful visually. It's beautiful, and also I don't know which way my wand will go.
Ooh. All right, I will go because my little head popped into the thing. Yes, it was beautiful. Yes, it was different. But I hated it.
It was no Time Bandits.
It was no Time Bandits. Yes, that's entertainment. Time Bandits. Whether you liked it or laughed or silly or boots on a tree, it's entertainment. This. I think I just honestly, I like somebody discovering life, humanity, but the violence towards women and children, I could not get past. And I've never been an abused woman. It must be deep in my DNA, probably many past lives, but in my womanhood of the world, what I'm attracting, I didn't know why I had to be entertained, even though I know that's oversimplification, by such ugly violence towards women and children. It just hurt me to the core so much that I couldn't get past the everything. And I admit that it was interesting about it. It's like, why we know humanity is not what it could be and should be and is supposed to be, but why do we have to put this on the screen? I don't know. That's all I have to say.
I do agree with you on that. I lived in Greece, as I aforementioned, and even still, this was I don't know, 15 years ago. This was early 21st century, and even still, there was animal cruelty, and there was still cruelty to women. And I mean, I could look across the sea and see Albania, and from even that point of view, even the Greeks then, people who were from Albania would whisper, "I'm from Albania," because the Greeks were not kind to them. So, that wasn't that long time ago. It is part of the culture of that part of the world. It's not a pretty part of the world. I mean, that aspect is not pretty.
If I can just hop in, actually, as someone who has experienced things like that, I feel like this movie, of course, it's always going to be uncomfortable to look at. It always is, whether it's real life or it's on film. As someone who has experienced it, I thought that they actually did a really good job with it, portraying the isolation and well, this is just normal. This is just what happens. This is what you're supposed to do. And it's hard. It's hard to see and it's hard to stomach, but I think it was a very good representation of that. I mean, obviously not exact, but a very good representation of it. no, I don't think that this is a movie that anybody watches to be entertained, at least not me. But like, I think for what the subject matter was, they didn't glorify it. They didn't. It didn't feel glorified to me. It felt real, and sometimes we have to feel something about it. Like, we have to watch it, which is, I think they did a really good job giving that to us.
And I also liked, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I liked when the woman was struck by the man, and her new surrogate mom comes in and says he learned it from his father.
Yep.
And she's doing this internal dialogue of, oh, okay, so a woman's place is it's water and it's food and it's quiet when the man is here.
And I think that's the point. And I agree with Courtney. I think that that's the point of the movie. It's shoving something very uncomfortable. And why do we have to watch this? I would argue that 90% or 95% of our films that we watch have this level or worse. And even if we look at films, from other decades, the violence against women is not even there because of a message about it. It's there because it's the way our society is. And that is pretty much what this film, it's not an entertaining film. It's not meant for entertainment anyway. I turn to Mean Girls the musical for stuff like that, But this film for me was extremely powerful. It was beautiful. It was well acted, just like whoever was, I think Richard-Lael was talking about the acting. To see those actors translate that exact type of movements, even from the various actors doing that you were talking about, was brilliant. The acting was brilliant. I don't know if this was originally filmed in film. It was film or digital originally, but if this was filmed using actual film, I would love to see it on the big screen with actual film, not digital, because it was absolutely gorgeous and the use of the framing was phenomenal. And now I'm sounding totally like a film nerd at this point, but it was art after art after art, and the story, it was slow, but then again, this is an art house film and it's foreign, so it's going to move slower than we're used to. But I was enwrapped by the message. It was visceral for me. There was points where I was like, yes, as a woman, I was feeling her, like the getting caught between this freedom that you could have through witchcraft, which is essentially what we're talking about. This idea that this girl was trapped to save her, sort of like Rapunzel, and then launched out into the world and free. And the witch kept saying, you're free this way. You can be free. But there's a horror to being freedom. There's a horror to that freedom as well. There's a cost to that freedom. But then you can go ahead and be trapped. And she kept being trapped again. But there's a horror to that trapped. And the woman in this world is caught between all of that. And if she becomes free, then she's caught also in potentially being burned. So there's this conundrum, there's this place about womanhood in this modern patriarchy. And what is beautiful is he even hit on this idea that it's the patriarchy and not a man-hating thing, because he shows that the one boy that she falls in love with is also an outsider. Like, he is not. So it's not so it's the patriarchy, it's the structures. So this was so powerful to me that I was just like, I'm going to be thinking about this movie for weeks and coming up with more stuff, because it is just, and the fact, I'm rambling now. The fact that a man did this movie, that actually a man made this movie, was phenomenal. Now, it says something that he was also an outsider, being gay. And actually, he said, talking about gender, I love this quote. He said, I have to read this, and then I'm going to let somebody else talk. But he says that because he was an outsider, he knew that if he had been a witch, he would have been burned at the stake for sure. And he says, I'm not sure which gender they would think I am, but either way, they would have called me a witch. So he has a deep sense of being an outsider. So I think that is what made him be able to make this film, not in the linear way, and to tell this story like folklore, and to capture the pain and agony and the rock and a hard place that women are women are stuck in, and the pain and all of that blood. Oh, this was just freaking phenomenal. Sorry. I'm done.
Wow. Well, thank you for joining the Witches Movie Coven tonight. We are done with tonight's show.
Jason.
I'm more like Courtney and Richard-Lael, that I've just mixed feelings about this movie. It does move really slow, and it needed to be trimmed by about 20 minutes. But once you get to the last 40 minutes, there's a power there. When you see Old Maid Maria's story going on, like, I was just captivated, and it was heartbreaking. It was painful to watch. There's a lot in this film that is just disturbing to watch, and that'll be in my movie minute, I think. But it's so different than anything I think we've done on this show. I think the pace, the art houseness of it makes it really unique in all of the films that we've watched. It is well acted. It's beautiful. There were times, though, when I'm watching the film and I didn't understand what was happening, and I would have to sort of rewind it, for lack of a better term, and go back. Like when somebody died, it was such a, like, I scratched you and now you're dead sort of thing. And it was hard for me to follow, so I needed to, like, watch it 2 or 3 times to see what was going on. There's not a lot of dialogue in this film either. If you're somebody who doesn't like subtitles, don't worry. There aren't a lot of subtitles, because I think there's about 80 lines throughout the whole film. The subtitles, the speaking is very sporadic throughout the movie. It's just, you have to, like, kind of immerse yourself and not look at anything else. I still don't know how I'm going to vote for this movie. I still don't know if this is an up or down.
Okay,
Yeah.
something very weird is happening for me. As we're all talking about this, as I'm talking about it, as we're all talking about it, I'm feeling so defensive about a lot of the things that you guys are saying that I want to be like, no, that was awesome. No, wait, but that was really cool. No, wait, but I love that part. I think I figured it out. And listening to Heather, like, that really helped. But, like, to nerd out, like you said a minute ago, like, film geek nerd out, that part when she comes out of the cave and it's all everywhere. It was so immersive. Like, I felt like I had just seen the light for the first time too. Like, oh my God, I felt emotional. And, like, the what was it? The pacing of the movie. I know I've complained before that movies were too slow. This one was not too slow. I was there. I was in it. It was me. I was feeling it the whole time, and I think it was just the right pace. I could have probably. It was not too slow.
It's too
No,
slow.
it wasn't too slow.
It needed 10 or 15 minutes trimmed.
No.
Because it wasn't.
Minutes.
But
Nope.
it wasn't like a horror movie. Like, it shouldn't have been. It was experiencing all of these things with her, as her, understanding what it was like to be her in all of these situations. And you can't just flash that on a screen and be done with it. You have to be there. And I felt like I was there. And you know what, Heather, I think I'm with you.
No.
We watched the same movie, Courtney. It was so visceral. This movie was so visceral. And when she looked at the guy and she was, like, in love with that guy, it was like, I was like, I get it why. And, like, I'm not going to say the quotes because Courtney may have quotes, but I don't know if you have quotes.
I have a couple.
But I have one other thing to say, nerdy film thing, is that I talked about this with She Will, and She Will is similar in that, although that was done by a woman, and I studied feminist film theory and feminist film literature, is that when you feminine stories that are not told in the classic linear fashion, where this happened, then this happened, you understand it. That's the traditional way. This movie did it a little bit more than She Will. If you remember, She Will was a circular puzzle putting together situation. This one also is similar, is that it doesn't tell the story in a very traditional way, which is very difficult for people to digest since we're so used to the other way of telling stories. This is much more of a folkloric idea. And then when you get to the final, that's who this burned Freddy Krueger, this woman is, you see her story. And that is so current, that story that she that was told about Old Maid Maria is so current in what we're experiencing with the Me Too movement and a lot of these stories that we tell about witches. The witch from oh gosh, I could come up with tons of a list of them. It's so powerful, and it adds yet another layer of ethics and morality that we have to negotiate. That's not easy, because is she bad or is she good? We don't know. And the movie leaves us with that, and it's very uncomfortable. We have to make our own decisions about how we feel, and that's not common in our movies. Usually our movies tell us who's good and who's bad. So
But-
it's very different.
But why do we want to be her? This guy, yeah, it was immersive, and I heard, and I understand if we had some not happy, I don't want a happy ending, but a moral or a reasoning or a something from it. I got nothing. I don't want to be her. I don't want to discover, am I good or am I bad? I don't.
But you don't want that, but when you're watching, it's not like you want that in your life, but when you're watching this movie, you want to watch it through her experience.
Yeah, but why do I want to experience that? I could go get hit by a bus. I don't want to experience that. I mean,
but it's the experience. It's the experience that so many of us have in a different way. That it's an understanding of people who have, who've gone through things differently.
I think I completely understand. Like I said, I have never had that kind of abuse or anything like it, but it hurt me to the core so much. It does not make me have extra sympathy for you or those who have. I'm obviously missing something here, because weirdly, I agree with all the points all of you have made, Heather and Richard and Courtney. I agree with all those points. Yes, they're feeling the acting was good, but I don't know why I'm not. There's not a redeeming thing for me in it.
But you will not be alone in that, Patti.
Well, that's the thing, though. But that is it right there, I think, because, or to me at least, is that it's not about sympathy. It's never about sympathy. Nobody wants that. It's when you're going through an experience like that, for that experience in particular, the isolation that you experience, that is a quintessential part of that. That's how it happens. No one will believe you. If you tell someone, no one will believe you. They could never. Like, you're completely alone. You have no friends. You have no family. You have no connections to anyone. And you are literally alone in that. And that is one of the hardest things for people to understand when you hear that, like, well, why didn't she just leave? Because she had nowhere to go, because she was alone. And it's so hard to grasp. I think this is it for me. Like, this was it for me. This was the part that, like, got me, that it's watching this movie was, if you were experiencing the movie, because I don't think it's not like watching the movie, it's experiencing the movie. If you were experiencing the movie in that way, you were experiencing how that felt. And so, like, one of the worst things that I see people say it online, I see everything in regards to, like, an abusive situation. Why didn't she leave? Because she should have just left. You can't, because you're alone. And for people to understand that on such a visceral level, like this film did, it's like, oh, okay, I wasn't alone. Somebody got it. Like, somebody else got it.
I think that the movie plays also with the idea of this idea of freedom. And so that's what it's going. It's not so much of, so she's jailed as a child, and the mother says, you can't go out there because there's horrors out there will rip you apart. Then when she goes out, initially it's like, wow, this world is beautiful. And then she's free. So the witch frees her. The witch gives her this freedom, but then there's a restriction to that. Obviously, she has the witch spit, and she has to do, she becomes a witch with the nails. So there's a freedom to it that she has. And the witch keeps saying, now you're free from all of those constraints. But she then wants to see what society is. So she goes back in, and first she learns as a young girl, the constraints of being the young wife because of the patriarchy. Then she gives that up, and she goes into becomes a dog. And then she tries that on. Then she tries being a man, and she realizes there's restrictions and restraints with that world as well. And then she gives that up, and then she becomes the young girl, where she finds freedom and happiness again, but then eventually restriction. So it's this back and forth of, where can I find the freedom? And then also, if I do transgress, and if I do cross over, and they know I will be burned and that will be the end of it, and it's the greatest horror. So this is sort of this idea of playing with society and playing with your freedom and your identity, and what freedoms can I have. And the witch, being the witch, is the most free. And the woman at the end, she says, Maria says, you gave it, pretty much you gave it all up. You want to be this is what you want. You're not free. And she says, yeah, this is what I want. So it's just an interesting play. The horror is part of it. Blood is part of being a woman. I think that was the part of the message on that. But I think it's a play with identity, with freedom, and where we want to be, and what we're willing to put up with. Give up.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
I also think too, with the construct, it shows clearly Maria and the girl, they were from a little bit of a different time, but they were from around the same time. A little bit of different, couple hundred years. But when she was revealed, when Maria was revealed, they burned her. They tortured her. All she wanted was to be loved. All she wanted was a husband. All she wanted was a child. And then because she didn't get it, she saw something of herself in this little girl, in this baby. And so she was frustrated and angry with the fact that, why aren't you like me? I feel so alone. I'm so alone. I thought you were going to understand me, and you're not. You don't understand me.
Right.
And so, it can take, I think that when horrible things happen, there are two paths that one can go on. For instance, my own mother, my late mother, was SA'd by her stepfather from the time she was 3 until she ran away from home when she was 16. That kind of abuse leaves a scar on a person. But my mother said, I will not let that happen to another child. I will not let that happen. I will make it a beautiful world. But I've seen other people who have gone through as bad or worse situations, and they sort of become a mirror to that, and they perpetuate that ugliness and that evil and that hurt, that continual pain. And I think that Maria was showing a very humanistic quality in the fact that she was this monster, but she really was feeling very much alone and wanted to be understood, which I think is really the most human thing that one could achieve, is to be understood and to be seen.
Yeah.
I think too, just really quick, that constant, like that struggle to like break the cycle, that visceral need to like do something different and break it, and then continuing to get caught in the same cycle no matter what you did. That scene at the end, towards the end, when she finally falls in love and she has everything she thinks that she wants, and then they're saying to her like, oh, where's your husband? And she comes outside and his body's there, and she's screaming on the ground, and the old witch is walking. It's just like the back of her walking into the woods, and what happened. And it's like, that was like, oh my God, like that, my heart hurts thinking about it. Like, it's just having that taken from you like that. Like, it's so much.
I think the title of this movie is important. You Won't Be Alone. So the little girl Navina does not want to be alone and rejects the idea. But even old maid Maria is looking for somebody to be with, as to not be alone. But her idea is that it's just going to be the two of us running through the woods, eating bunnies or whatever else. And that's not good enough for the other one. I think it's about finding family. It's about finding community. It's about finding a place. And I think that title is very specific and plays into sort of the end game of the entire film.
Right. And the morality issue that I mentioned earlier is the question of, is this old maid Maria, who has been demonized through folklore, and also we see as a witch in her own story, because she wanted her own husband and her own family, the same story, and she was then burned at the stake as a witch. So she's been demonized. And then we see this story over and over again in our ghost horror films of the 2000s, starting there, where you have that woman who's been burned at the stake, then come back to haunt and do this stuff. So we see it here, and here we have her backstory of why, of course, another very trendy thing. And we have sympathy for her. And even though, like Patti was saying, why would I want to be like her? It's not that we want to be, I think it's not that you want to go around eating animals and doing that stuff. I think it's, they created this monster who would be demonized normally and be horrible. And they gave her sympathy. They showed us why. We may not agree with what she does. And it's what I say in my book when I talk about this kind of character, but we understand why she does it. And so that creates a sympathy there where you go, oh, it's that tragic character. You go, yeah, this is so sad this happened to her, and now it's happening to the next girl. And it's, I don't know, for me this was powerful on so many levels. And somebody in the chat said, the reviewer say watch it more than once to get it. I could definitely see this. I would watch this more than once, you know, from a lot of different perspectives as a film's, you know, nerd, and just, it's just beautiful art. So it's yeah, I'm with you, Courtney. I was awestruck and powerful, felt all the feels viscerally throughout.
Yeah.
It's impossible
said,
not to feel for Maria, though, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like, you know,
Feel for them.
she's the witch, but you understand why she does what she does. You understand why she doesn't like society. Your heart breaks for her while you watch the film and you watch her story kind of unfold, especially in the last 30 minutes of the movie.
Yeah.
You know, yeah.
And the voice doesn't match the Freddy Krueger look. So it's like,
No.
you're looking at her, you want her to be, you know, this awful thing. And she has this very calm kind of tone. So, yeah.
I have to say, though, that I will not be watching it again twice or 3 times or 4 times. I barely watched all of it. Like I think I missed off on the last 30 minutes, which is where it actually gets good. I will not be watching it again. Ever. Not ever. I don't think I would ever watch it again.
I don't think I want to. I don't want to hurt like that. I understand hurt and pain when I get something out of it, but I still didn't get something out of it. I know the struggle of women. I know the struggle of abuse. Do we
And
have
that's
any?
fair. That's
Yeah.
what
Oh,
art
it
is.
is. It is.
That's what art is, Patti. Not every piece of art speaks to
I know,
every
which is
person.
fabulous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I watch this again, though, I'm going to close my front door because it was open this afternoon while I was watching the movie. And there were times when I was just worried that children were going to walk past or the mail lady was going to show up and, you know, really wonder what goes on inside my house. So if I watch it a second time, I'll be far more careful.
All right. Well, do we have any quotes?
I do. I think that, so here's the thing. This was a very difficult movie for me to quote because my ADHD is raging and I was trying so hard to pay attention to it that like stopping to write things down was very difficult. But I went back and I found some that like stuck out to me. What I will say is I loved, it was like listening to a poem and I loved that. I thought it was very interesting. So it felt like everything that was said was poignant as you were watching it to me. But I have a couple. One is as she's just starting to like sort of break off from the witch and explore, she says sparrows, but are sparrows snakes? Are women wasps? Kisses chains? Me, am I devils? And then the sky to bits it chewed her up, spat out the whisper mama bits. Witch mama is what was left. Witch mama and me the witch. Me the witch, sometimes my wish is come back, whisper mama, just for a little bit. But the walls, I want them to come back never.
Mm-hmm.
Which
That's
I thought
powerful.
was, yeah.
That's really powerful.
And then she said, the man, the eye water he wants from the woman. Which I Heather, we talked about that before. That was a big one. And then this is like heartbreaking, but every last bit of me thirsts for every bit of him, only not the skin flesh him the boy inside, him the boy with the eyes that look scared even when they're smiling. It's that boy, him I want to put my arms around, to hold him, to chase that timidness away. And like hearing that while you're watching them fall in love, and like this is, you've seen all of this horror this whole time, and now there's something beautiful happening, and then what comes next was awful. But then I feel like I had a moment of like, I don't know, that taking back the power moment when I was watching towards the end when she the witch tried to kill the baby, and she immediately went to the baby and did the witch spit on the baby, knowing that the other witch would die from that, and like didn't hesitate. And that to me was the minute the cycle was broken, because she did it to save her, not to save herself, to save the baby. That's what it felt like. And then she looked at the witch as the witch was dying, and the witch is crying, and she says, "How is it so simple for you?"
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that there was the best line in the whole movie.
Yeah.
So those are my quotes.
Beautiful. And you notice the quotes you put at the beginning, and then the ones that you read, the English or the language gets better because she's learning language, so she starts speaking better.
Yeah.
Just, oh my goodness, just I know, totally.
I was surprised you didn't include "Let's go, wife of Boris," which was my favorite quote from the film.
There was a lot of like ones that made me giggle, but it didn't. Those weren't the ones that stuck with me. I think a lot of this was so beautiful that these are the ones. And like the "how is it so simple for you?" I thought, like, I literally thought it was pass out. Like that was just because that's it. You did it, and that's the happy ending to me.
Yeah,
broke it.
Okay, Jason, do we have a main movie moment on this?
So before I do this, I have to ask, who was the one who selected this movie?
This was one that I wanted to watch that came out after my movie, so I guess technically it was my selection.
Okay, good, because that's what I wrote in my thing. So I just wanted to make sure that I had it right. So before I begin this, if you're watching like the first half of the movie, the little girl is taken by the witch, and the witch is trying to teach her how to be a witch. So while I was watching that bit, all I could think of was, "Tonight on Skills, my adopted witch mother taught me." First up, skincare. Hail the witch mother for her skincare regimen. Do you want your skin to look like someone ripped off all the skin off your body, leaving nothing but muscle? Witch Mother has the answer for you. Just follow Witch Mom's daily skincare regimen of not showering, not moisturizing, and not giving a damn, and you'll look hideous in no time. Diet and exercise. Nothing fuels a witch more than delicious and tasty warm blood. Break the neck of a dog or rabbit and get to sucking. Let me push your head down into all of that delicious goo. Get it all in your mouth, and don't worry about being sloppy. Witches love to leave a ring of blood around their mouths. Fashion. In the era of fast fashion, no fashion is easier than taking the entrails of the dead, stuffing them into your abdomen, and then transforming before the eyes of your adoring fans. Want to look like a peasant, a farm laborer, a sweet and innocent girl? Get to stuffing those entrails into your stomach. You'll be happy that you did. Cardio. Everyone knows that witches were put on this earth to do one thing: walk around. That's right. Keep your girlish figure by simply walking around aimlessly from small village to small village. You don't need a house or a place to go. Just walk around aimlessly and you'll remain a size 2 forever. Nail care. Oh, God, I just can't keep doing these. It's so rough. This is a strangely disturbing movie, and I may never talk to Heather or Greene ever again for suggesting it. Somehow, I find myself missing the suggestions of Courtney Buckley. I didn't like Your Highness, but it didn't leave me sick to my stomach. When I was a kid, I couldn't dissect a frog in high school biology class because I was so squeamish. And now you want me to watch a movie that has witches face down in a bloody rabbit? I just have trouble doing it. And I'm guessing I'm not alone with these feelings.
Yay!
Yeah.
Hear, hear. Oh. Thank you, Jason. All right. Well, Thank you. We all know what the movie is about now, or
Maybe.
you're rushing out to go get
No.
it. No.
I still don't think we do, but
So we have one more thing to do, and that is wands up or wands down. Claws.
Patty's face is my favorite thing that's ever happened on this entire show. This like
Okay, we got up, 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 down, neutral. We got on the room. We got up and horns up. We got wands down, wands down, wands down. Yay. Good night all. Good night. Again, beautifully made movie. I didn't think needed to be made.
It's so hard. I think to like this, you have to be in the mood for it. You have to be ready for it. Like if you've eaten some gummies or had a bottle of wine, this is not the time to watch this film.
Mm-mm. I love how like just strong Patty's opinions have been the last 2 weeks. Last one was none of your opinions matter. This is the best movie I've ever watched. And this one is none of you have taste. This is terrible.
It should never have been made.
Here's my favorite.
What's going on over there?
I love this.
Did you guys hold on to Black Phillip tightly, watching all those people being destroyed and interested?
Oh, no. He wasn't even there.
No, he was in the other room.
Cover those eyes.
No.
That was fun, and that's what we do. We love to disagree. We agree to disagree, and it's never ever personal. Even if they're all
Sometimes it is.
Well, this one got a little close.
Courtney hexes people if they don't like her movies. What are you all talking about?
I would never hex Patty, only you, because Patty has an opinion and you just talk mean to me. Patty is allowed to have an opinion. Jason just needs to turn his light off.
all right.
It doesn't work as much now because it's bright outside. It's really sad this time of year.
So what are we doing next week?
Little Witches, 1996.
Okay.
It's a teen horror film, a la The Craft.
Nice. Okay. No entrails.
I know there's naked bodies, but I don't know if there's entrails. I
love
think so.
naked bodies. I love the naked bodies in this. Naked bodies are beautiful. I get the art of a naked body. Just leave
There's
it at
devils. There's devil conjuring in Little Witches.
But it's Canadian, so everyone's very polite the whole way through.
Yeah, I apologize. Sorry.
Grace Eaton-y.
All right.
Yeah, it's a Canadian movie that is that was made the same year as The Craft, so it has that, teen girls into witchcraft thing going on.
Sweet.
That'll be fun. Yay. So you guys, everybody out there, watch it. Boobs and butts. Have this
Boobs and butts.
No.
Boobs and butts.
No, that's
Everyone loves boobs and butts. Yeah.
All right. Who's got anything coming up that they want to talk about while we have a few minutes left? Courtney.
I finally have one. Okay, so I'm going to the Wicked Pissa Parafair. I'm going to be there in May. There it is. The Wicked Pissa Spring Parafair. For those of you that watch Scared and Alone, you will recognize the location. It is at Harstuff Hall. You can come and see me. I will have a table Sunday, May 19th from 10 to 4.
Yay.
I'm so excited.
All right. Jason.
Tomorrow morning, I'm going to Tennessee for the Pagan Unity Festival, where I will be through Sunday. It's a really fun festival. It's between Nashville and Memphis this year. And then I'll be at the North Dakota Grand Sabbath at the end of May. And this is not about a thing I'm doing, but it's about a thing I did. I turned in the first draft of my 10th book for Llewellyn. It's a biography of Raymond Buckland that has been vexing me for 2 years. And my editor did not kill me. So it's probably okay. So that's good. Very excited to get this done.
That's awesome. Richard-Lael.
Yes, that would be me. Richard-Lael is one name, not two. If I were just Richard, I would be a dick. That's because I see people still calling me Richard, and that is not my name. But I am here in New Orleans, and I'm at the Gentleman Psychic, and I am everywhere. I'm so easy to be found. I'm everywhere. I got nothing else.
Okay, Heather.
I am gonna be I'm gonna be in Atlanta. Obviously, I am in Atlanta right now, but attending Mystic South in the end of July. I actually am on the board, so we are in planning mode right now. Lots of people have gotten their assignments, and we're just so busy with that. So I'm kind of caught up with that right now. But I will be there, and I am doing a doll workshop, and I will be around. Signing books and talking to people about editing and writing books as well. I usually do that somehow, somewhere during the event. And until then, I'm just here in Atlanta doing my thing, maybe a few other podcast interviews about my book and just generally, writing news stories and hanging out with you guys. So that's it for now.
Perfect.
You can find me at heathergreene.net if you need to find me.
Find her. She's worth finding. All right. I am leaving actually this weekend for Arizona, Globe, Arizona, the old Globe Paracon. Supposed to be a real haunted, cute little like mining town, ghost town. I'm going to be doing seances and galleries and workshops. So come on down if you can find it. And then 2 weeks from now, I am hitting Romania with my bestie Sebastian for a vampire and witch tour of Romania. It's going to be once in a lifetime. So if you can even think about coming, come with us. And then I'm going to get back in time to go to Pennsylvania for Pennhurst Paracon, in time to turn around and go to Texas, because you got to go to Dallas after you go to Romania for a little witchy weekend at Miracles of Joy. And then it's the end of May. So follow me, go to pattinegri.com. I am still hacked on Facebook. I can post sometimes if somebody stands on their left foot at the exact moment somebody goes waka waka, comments on one of my things, I can back into Facebook through Meta on Instagram and post, but I cannot get on Facebook to look at anything. I cannot remark or answer things. And if anybody gets a message from me on Facebook, it's not me. It's some guy in his tidy whities in his mother's basement. I'm still working on it.
That reading wasn't from you? Oh, no.
No, I mean, it's not as many as I have on TikTok. TikTok, there is so many Patti Negris, it's ridiculous. And I'm sure you guys get it too. Richard-Lael, when we do what we do, it's like, I don't think it would be hard for social media with all AI to figure out there can't be 14 of the exact same face Patti Negri or Richard-Lael. Lillard. It shouldn't be hard, but it apparently is. So mine's moved on to like senators and congressmen, but I'm still not there. But follow pattinegri.com and you can get to all my other social medias, which is there. I will be here the next 2 weeks. I'm going to be gone for a couple of weeks. So all of you guys have to fill in for me while I'm gone. Say what I would say. You guys know what I would say. You guys figure out.
My opinion is the only one that matters, and everyone else can go home.
Yeah.
That's
all
a
right.
new thing.
That's a new thing.
One of us will take a strong stand every week.
Strong stand every week. Yeah, take a strong stand. All right. Do we have anything else to talk about? We never end early, and we don't want to cackle for 2 minutes. What can we do instead of cackle?
I think
silent.
I think next week we're going to have to do a spell to get your Facebook back with everybody in the chat, and all of us together. We're going to have to work on that.
Okay, I love that. We should do a spell. If we as a coven can come up with an anti-hacking spell, we'll be the most famous witches in the world, whether we like our movies or not.
That's true. We'll be the little witches during an anti-hacking spell next week. How's that?
I love it. All right. And on that note, we are down. So are we doing silent or are we doing cackle or a silent
cackle? Let's cackle.
We need to cackle.
But we have to cackle in Macedonian.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. 1, 2, 3.